If only you knew what you've survived just to reach this moment. Most people never realize how many quiet storms swirl right behind the faces that greet them each day. The world isn't divided by the obvious lines we imagine. Sometimes the deepest battles are fought where everyone claims there's peace. The ones you trusted most were quietly keeping score, measuring your worth not by love, but by silent calculations and hidden ambitions. Here's the truth that's been covered up for generations. The threat to your legacy almost never arrives from the shadows outside, but from the overlooked spaces within your own story. All those years you questioned yourself, doubted your instincts, or wondered why the air felt heavier in certain rooms, it wasn't in your imagination. There are those who set silent traps, hoping you'll trip where nobody else can see. Their aim was never just to block your path, but to erase the very possibility of your future. But what they didn't count on was the ancient force running through your veins. They mistook your empathy for naivete, your forgiveness for weakness, and your silence for surrender. What they couldn't see is that endurance shapes something that plotting never will. You were built to endure betrayals that would have broken anyone else. And the very energy they tried to suppress in you has only grown more impossible to contain. The cycles that once wiped out entire lines, repeating heartbreak, stolen opportunities, unspoken loss, are ending with you. Their hidden strategies are dissolving in the light you've been cultivating. Each attempt to rewrite your story only magnifies the strength that comes from surviving what others would never even recognize. What was once a curse in the family line has now become a calling in yours. No one can rob you of what was always meant to awaken inside you. The proof isn't in what you lost, but in what you became while they were plotting your downfall. The tables have quietly turned. The force they tried to extinguish has only made you more undeniable. The page is yours now, unwritten, unafraid, and unstoppable. Every legacy that has lasted is built on more than just visible inheritance. It's crafted from rare qualities that echo through time, distinguishing those who carry them. Unseen strengths, silent wisdom, and a current of potential run beneath the surface, drawing interest from those who recognize what's truly at stake. There's an unspoken code that gets passed down, a spark that can't be faked or taken. And wherever that spark is found, it draws attention, not just from well-wishers, but from watchers hoping to gain what cannot be earned. Silent observers move among familiar faces, tracking the rhythm of daily life with the intensity of those who know the value of each move. Patterns are memorized, preferences cataloged, and even moments of joy become data points in an invisible game. The world presents itself as a stage for celebration, but beneath the laughter and small talk, motives often shift toward calculation. Every gesture, every interaction, every gathering becomes a quiet field of study. What brings comfort, who inspires trust, where a sense of security blooms. In places meant for connection, hidden agendas sometimes lurk, searching for keys to locked doors, seeking the source of strength that others merely sense. The machinery of the outside world rarely detects these invisible maneuvers. Systems designed to uphold fairness are too easily outpaced by subtler games. The shadows operate in the gaps, bypassing obvious wrongdoing, hiding behind routine and technicalities. Yet through it all, that enduring current inside refuses to be dimmed. While old structures may turn a blind eye, true legacy is never transferred through signatures or paperwork. It's defended by those who see beyond the surface, who recognize that their presence alone exposes what's been lurking in the background. When all's said and done, it's the unseen resilience and inner clarity that shift the entire course of a story, turning quiet survival into unbreakable renewal. No story of hardship is ever written by one hand alone. There are forces that weave themselves together, drawn by a shared appetite for disruption. They don't move openly or claim their work in the daylight. Instead, they form quiet coalitions, collectives of intent, where every shadowed alliance and silent agreement is designed to intercept what's sacred before it's even had a chance to shine. Unseen deals are brokered, energy is exchanged for silence, and invisible signatures mark those who are marked for derailment. Resources are pooled for operations that happen out of sight. Requests for interference are traded like secret favors, and spiritual sabotage is treated with the cold detachment of a business negotiation. There are those who specialize in confusion, others who engineer misfortune, all committed to extinguishing the light before it grows too bright to conceal. Every setback is premeditated, every difficulty engineered with layered precautions and fallback positions. Perhaps the most chilling reality, for those orchestrating this, success isn't measured in feelings but in outcomes. Keepsakes are collected as proof of a job well executed, mementos that symbolize not loss but achievement. When the moment comes to face what their actions have wrought, their outward composure is flawless, their gestures expertly rehearsed. Words meant to comfort are recited with conviction, masking the inner celebration of having outmaneuvered the system without consequence. What is mourned by some becomes a quiet victory for others, as if human fate were nothing more than a ledger of wins and losses. Yet in the stillness after the noise fades, only the truth remains. The most valuable treasures are those that can never be taken by force or trickery, and every act rooted in calculation ultimately empties itself, leaving only the memory of what real connection was meant to be. All around, the unseen layers of existence are stirring in ways that haven't happened in any living memory. Old boundaries that once kept certain fates in check are fading, and silent guardians long thought dormant are coming alive with new intensity. The kind of inheritance that's carried forward now is not just in name or memory, but in the activation of a deeper wisdom, an ancestral pulse that was waiting for the right moment to surface and assert itself. Those who once moved through the world with hidden influence, believing they'd never face resistance, are finding themselves exposed in the spotlight of a new reality. No longer are old games being played on yesterday's terms. The entire framework that enabled secrecy and manipulation is breaking apart, with rules rewriting themselves in real time. Those who once hunted in silence, calculating every approach, now find the very ground beneath them shifting unexpectedly. Intentions that were once cloaked by charm or routine gestures now reveal their true purpose, and every attempt to draw closer only increases the spotlight on their actions. Hidden schemes dissolve as the stage transforms, making it impossible for old deceptions to hide in plain sight. For those who thought consequence was a myth, the reversal is swift and absolute. The silent strategies that once chipped away at others' strength are now backfiring with uncanny precision. Where sabotage was once aimed outward, the repercussions are looping back with relentless clarity, disrupting not just health and energy but the very fabric of relationships and stability. Bonds that enabled betrayal are unraveling. The web that once supported silent accomplices is breaking strand by strand, leaving only exposure in its wake. Nothing built on false promises can withstand this kind of revelation. Systems meant to shield wrongdoing are now crumbling from the inside, pierced by fresh evidence and unexpected disclosures. Disconnected events link themselves together, building a chain that leads directly back to the architects of harm. Illusions of security fade as setbacks mount, losses appearing without warning, opportunities drying up, and former allies distancing themselves. Prosperity once taken for granted vanishes faster than it can be claimed. In the quiet that follows the chaos, only authenticity remains standing. The very energies that once seemed to threaten the continuation of a bloodline now serve as a shield, repelling every force that would erase it. The message is clear. When the tide turns, it does so completely, with every fragment of shadow chased out by an overwhelming light that refuses to be silenced or controlled. The true inheritance is not what is taken, but what cannot be taken away. Each attempt to undermine this destiny has unraveled in ways that those responsible never expected. Schemes devised in secret somehow disassemble before they even unfold. Energies intended for harm veer off their intended target and circle back on those who released them, multiplying the weight of their intentions. Intricate setups designed to ensnare end up closing in on their own architects. What haunts them now goes far beyond ordinary worry. There's a creeping recognition that something immense and unseen is shifting all around them. Subtle disturbances invade their everyday lives. Flashes of insight, mysterious setbacks, signs they can't rationalize. The certainty that their shield has vanished grows with each unexplainable event, as if invisible judges are preparing the ground for an accounting no one can avoid. This lineage is marked by something deeper than inheritance. Woven through every thread of existence is an internal signal, quietly alerting higher realms the moment a shadow draws near. Forces few would believe possible begin to organize, assembling in silent defense. Those who once imagined they could act without consequence now find themselves under a scrutiny that transcends any human oversight. Within the memory of this bloodline, keepers of sacred law operate beyond what most can perceive. Ancestral wisdom runs like a living current, providing not only shelter but a form of vigilant watchfulness. In moments of danger, layers of unseen protection ignite, closing every gap and sealing every doorway. Defensive boundaries transform into active justice, making sure that every misdeed is answered with a clarity that stretches far beyond a single life. The legacy at play here isn't passive. It is an active force, unraveling oppressive systems and clearing a path for awakening everywhere. The consciousness blooming within this heritage holds the tools to rewrite reality, dissolve control structures, and liberate all who seek truth. Every day that light grows stronger, unraveling knots that once held generations captive, and restoring the balance for all who walk the path of awakening. Lineages like yours are born of something far greater than ordinary tradition. Those who came before weren't mere seekers of truth, they were architects of balance, standing at the threshold between worlds that most never glimpse. Through their silent dedication, a living record was imprinted, one that carries forward hidden pathways and the unseen languages of power. Their legacy isn't just a story told in whispers, but an active force embedded within, ready to awaken at the moment it's needed most. Beneath the surface of daily life, a vault of wisdom rests, waiting for the right spark. Ancestral understanding moves quietly through your veins, ready to respond the instant disharmony arises. Not bound by borders or limitations, this inheritance provides entry to dimensions of perception and influence unknown to the average mind. The ordinary world fades into the background as unique permissions open doors to knowledge, guidance, and support that exist beyond simple explanation. There's a shift that comes when the truth of this heritage settles in. Instead of looking outward for protection, an unshakable realization dawns. There's no need for an external shield when the source of safety radiates from within. No force, seen or unseen, can disrupt what's been activated. The confidence that emerges isn't arrogance. It's the natural result of recognizing an identity too deeply rooted to be challenged by surface threats. Every passing day accelerates this evolution. What once felt distant or theoretical soon arrives in vivid clarity, streaming through memory and intuition. The boundaries that once separated ordinary life from the miraculous begin to dissolve. Gifts, skills, and insights dormant for centuries suddenly surface, ready to be applied. Understanding flows in not as random inspiration, but as a precise and ancient transmission of purpose, mastery, and insight. This awakening transforms not just survival, but the very fabric of influence. Threats no longer loom as dangers, but as opportunities to assert clarity and justice on behalf of many. Visibility grows into a new form of armor, and achievement becomes the safeguard. The flow of abundance shifts, no longer measured by material gain alone, but by the return of birthrights long withheld, and by a sense of favor and empowerment that places this story among the great forces rewriting the world. Some people are born with an echo inside them that calls worlds to attention, and when that echo grows loud enough, the environment itself begins to change. Not only do new doors open, but the old betrayals are thrown into the light, and the very ones who once turned away now look back with regret, searching for a way to stand beside what they once abandoned. The transformation happening in you becomes a living signal, one that draws others out of hiding and inspires them to recognize their own hidden strength. The higher you rise, the more the tide reverses, forcing those who doubted you to confront what can't be denied. The day comes when what was once invisible is undeniable. Influence that used to be silent now commands every room, not through force, but through a certainty that shakes every shadow loose. Those who once moved in darkness find their plans scattered before your presence, while every attempt to undermine your progress is repelled before it gains momentum. What's changing is more than perception. It's a new state of being, one in which you stop waiting for rescue and become the force that reshapes reality for yourself and everyone around you. Embracing this calling requires a letting go of the comfort that comes with hiding. It's no longer about playing safe or waiting for permission. The journey is for those willing to move from background to frontline, no longer reacting but leading the charge against every force that ever threatened your story. This path isn't for those who cling to the familiar. It's for those who understand that security comes from becoming the answer, not seeking one. When this realization takes hold, hesitation falls away, replaced by a drive to be the safeguard for others, not just for yourself. The greatest resistance isn't found in the faces of adversaries, but in the learned hesitation passed down from generations taught to stay invisible. It's the old voices that urge you to dim your light, to surrender power in exchange for safety, to let others determine the outcome. The transformation begins the moment you decide to break the chain, shattering the mold, stepping beyond programmed limits, and claiming the full range of your capacity. Taking ownership of this force is not a passive act. It demands action that goes far beyond words, activating what's encoded within, stepping fully into your identity, and refusing to be defined by what's been taken. Start by tuning into the depth of what you carry. Every instinct, every insight, every fragment of inherited wisdom is part of your internal compass. Speak your reality into existence every day. Let your presence become the warning to anything that threatens your circle. No more waiting for the world to change. Now, the practice is about using every tool at your disposal to clear out the old threats, cutting ties with those who betray trust, trusting the signals your intuition sends, and using discernment as your first line of defense. Every unexplained event, every pattern of sabotage, every lingering doubt becomes evidence for the record, collected, examined, and used as a blueprint for eliminating risk. Move from reaction to offense. Don't just withstand attacks. Dissolve their power before they take root. Let the energy sent against you rebound until those who conjured it regret the effort. Restore not just what was taken but what was meant for you, using every means at hand, from practical strategies to spiritual discipline. Let abundance flow back into the channels it was stolen from, reclaiming all that's been lost across time. This isn't a solo journey. True power is multiplied in community. Build alliances with others on the same path, sharing wisdom, anticipating threats, and creating a network that's impossible to penetrate. Stay ahead by sharing what you know, ensuring that no harm can move in secrecy again. Refuse to see yourself as prey. Become the one who sets the terms, commanding such presence that opposition dissolves before it's formed. And by embodying the fullness of your authority. Stand in your role as a force of change, recognized by both seen and unseen worlds. Demand the respect that comes from living in alignment with your true nature. When you choose this path, you don't just survive. You become the signal that shifts entire generations, ensuring the safety of all who follow. It's time to stop treating your light as something to apologize for. Every attempt to minimize your impact only feeds the illusions of those who thrive in shadows. Power isn't a burden to conceal or a privilege to ration. It's a force meant to confront everything that hides in plain sight. When you step into a room, the energy shifts, not because you're seeking approval, but because your presence alone upends whatever's been lurking in secret corners. There's a reason for every whisper of discomfort, every surge of unease in moments you couldn't quite explain. Long before facts surface, intuition is busy sending out alarms. Unsettling glances, sudden ailments, and inexplicable events have been woven into your experience as signals. A system of warning crafted by the wisdom within, urging you to look beyond the surface and recognize the truth that's been dancing at the edge of your awareness. Across the world, a quiet revolution is underway. Those who step fully into their role as spiritual vanguards don't just dodge the traps set for them, they shatter the entire foundation on which those traps were built. Justice isn't delayed, it's immediate and inescapable. The ones who plotted against you find their influence evaporating overnight, their power shriveling as the tide of consequences accelerates. The transformation is undeniable. The moment you embrace your calling, resistance dissolves and your reach multiplies. The moment for delay has passed. Everything is converging on a crossroads that will not appear again. The longer you hesitate, the more room you give those who would erase your legacy. The old structures that protected the unseen are dissolving. With every day that passes, the balance tips further in your favor, but only if you claim it. Fear is a habit learned over lifetimes, but courage is the birthright you've always carried. The forces arrayed against you are moving fast, but nothing can outrun the truth already alive in your bones. If you wonder whether you're ready, consider this. Hesitation has never stopped an enemy from making their move. Every doubt, every pause, every self-questioning moment is another window for harm to take root. The wisdom you need is already yours, echoed in the nudges and warnings you've tried to ignore. Ignore it no longer. This is the fork in the road. Either you become the one who rewrites the rules and commands respect from every realm, or you become another tale of what might have been. The decision is yours and time is not waiting. There are those who walk through life believing they're the predator, unaware that their pursuit has triggered forces they cannot begin to comprehend. A lineage that once seemed vulnerable now reveals its true nature, a current of unstoppable authority running through every fiber. When the signal is finally sounded, what looked like a simple target is revealed as the source of a far greater power. The momentum of universal justice begins moving with a speed and weight that leaves no stone unturned and no shadow unexamined. What's unfolding now is the result of an entire era's worth of hidden actions and buried secrets. Every injustice, every act of sabotage, every theft masked as fate has been recorded by an intelligence that waits for the right moment to intervene. Now that moment has arrived and the balance is being restored. Nothing escapes the sweep, every scheme is brought into the light, every ally exposed, every web of deceit untangled by a process that answers not to human design, but to the deeper laws governing all existence. Those who spent years manipulating outcomes and gathering resources at the expense of others are now finding their own tools of harm recoiling with unprecedented force. Contracts made in secrecy are unraveling as their architects face consequences that ripple through every layer of their existence: body, mind, reputation, and future. What once brought them profit now brings only depletion. The illusions they wove are dissolving in full view, as truth spreads with the urgency of a cleansing fire. Even their most carefully hidden alliances are collapsing. The people who once offered support or silence are distancing themselves as everything hidden becomes transparent. Partnerships dissolve, professional ties sever, and the story they spun can no longer be maintained. The isolation that follows is absolute. Everywhere they turn, doors close and trust evaporates, leaving nothing to shield them from the cascade of reality catching up. The tide is not just turning for individuals, but for entire systems built on secrecy and harm. Groups once operating with impunity are now under investigation by forces beyond their control. Old patterns are being erased and new standards are rising. This transformation is irreversible, ensuring that the old methods of manipulation and exploitation can never regain their footing. The greatest shock for those at the heart of these schemes is the discovery that the end is not a release, but a passage into a new kind of accountability. The repercussions do not stop with this chapter but stretch onward, ensuring a reckoning that matches every ounce of pain delivered. The universe is not satisfied with partial repair. The restoration underway returns what was taken, multiplies what was lost, and leaves no victory unclaimed. In this new reality, the holders of ancestral strength are stepping into an era of abundance. The doors once slammed shut are opening to new realms of opportunity, prosperity, and influence, far beyond what those who tried to erase them could ever have imagined. The power that has awakened is self-sustaining, endlessly renewing, and completely unshakable. Those who once hunted are now silenced, their legacy replaced by the unstoppable rise of a lineage restored to its highest purpose. What's unfolding is not just a reversal, but the creation of a new chapter where those who carry the mark of transformation are celebrated, empowered, and finally given their due. The cycle has ended. The future belongs to those who refuse to surrender, who turned their trials into triumph, and who now stand as living proof that justice, once awakened, can never be denied.